Hey there, welcome to the Inquisitive Farmwife's channel. I am so glad that you are here with me today. I have been busy trying to keep up with life, and I'm working on the Every Bit Counts challenge. I've not done a ton of things this past week. I can't believe I'm saying week. How did a week pass? Anyway, so I spent a lot of time with family this week. I took some cousins to a ball game. I got to babysit my granddaughter. I got to spend some quality time with my parents and my sister before she goes back to school. It's always kind of a rush this time of year to squeeze in as much time as we can together. We've had appointments. There's just been so many things that we've been busy doing that I was not only preserving food, but I was preserving those memories. So don't forget, spend time with family. That is important too. So we'll start out Monday morning. You can hear the coffee pot in the background. I thought while I make my morning coffee, I can go ahead and try to get something done for the challenge. If you remember back on one of the garden tours, it's maybe been a couple weeks ago, we picked what we thought were white kidney beans, and they are not. They're just regular kidney beans. They're kind of small, but I had planned to grow them to save seeds, and that's exactly what I'm doing. So I have shelled them and put them in a bag to preserve them, to maybe plant them again probably next year so that I can have an even bigger harvest, and maybe we'll actually get to do something with them. On our last video, we talked about how we froze the pineapple, and this is how I ended up deciding to store them. So the pineapples was the big Sunday project. And that's exactly what I did on Tuesday. I had looked through the refrigerator and I was disappointed. The strawberries were already starting to kind of soften on me, and some of them had some bad spots, and that's such a disappointment when that happens, and I just didn't want it to go to waste. And so I thought I'll do what I did with the pineapple, and we'll freeze it, and we can use this in breads or for smoothies or whatever. And while I was digging in there, I also found some grapes. I don't know if you guys have ever tried frozen grapes, but they make for a really good treat, but they're also fun to use instead of ice in your beverages. So I went ahead and froze those grapes too, and they were a bit older. They were probably a week older than the strawberries were, so they were kind of starting to get a wrinkly. This is just a really great way to be able to preserve them and use them for another time. So if you haven't tried it, I hope you'll give this a try sometime. Oh, and here is the apple tree. Poor thing still is just loaded with apples. And sadly, look, some of them are starting to go bad. Right there. See that one? I see a bruise. So after throwing myself into some sort of a guilt trip, I did go out and grab a part of a bushel of the apples, and I washed them up. And then I peeled them. I worked through any bad spots. I put them in lemon juice water to soak while I was doing the rest of them. I put them into chunks up, and before I got to bed, I threw them in the freeze dryer. So that was Wednesday evening. As I'm editing this on Friday morning, the freeze dryer is still going, so that will be a project for another day to unload and package that. And then Thursday morning, I woke up and remembered I had picked these up off the ground, a week or more ago, and the cows had gotten out and knocked them off. They weren't quite ready, and so I kind of brought them in thinking maybe something would happen with them, and they would, I would find some project, and I didn't get to it, and I thought, you know what, if last night I could chop up all those apples, then surely I can chop up some this morning while the coffee pot's brewing. And I decided to make either applesauce or apple butter. I ended up making applesauce, and so I'll show you that in just a minute. But after I got the apples in the crock pot, because I thought, okay, they could be cooking while I go out and do morning chores, because I milk every morning and feed all the animals and everything. But I went ahead and I saved several of the cores, and I started a batch of apple cider vinegar, and it's just really simple to do. I may have filled my jar a little too full, probably 3/4 full, I think is what they suggest. And then you take, I think for every cup of water, you put in a tablespoon of sugar. So I went ahead and got myself a quart jar, and I added that sugar in there. And then I went ahead and put it into the jar. And typically you would just have a lot of water at the top. But because I didn't leave myself much headspace, I went ahead and used one of my fermenting utensils, I guess. It's not a weight, but it will push the apples down and kind of make sure that they don't go up so you don't get any kind of mold or anything. I may end up later putting this in a gallon-sized jar. If I do, I'll show you about that. But it's really simple and easy. So then the apples cooked for 4 hours on high, and then I came back in and I went ahead and I blended that up. Because I won't be canning this, I am using some fresh lemon juice to put onto the apples in the crock pot so that that'll help from it turning brown. Because I'm making applesauce, I didn't want it to get dark like apple butter, so I think that this really will make a difference. I chose this time to use honey as a sweetener because I had a bottle that was starting to crystallize and it really did need to be used, and so I thought that would be a perfect application to use it today. And then I separated it out and I had just plain, and then I added cinnamon to one, and then I had 2 lonely peaches that I had preserved off of my tree. And I thought to myself, what am I going to do with those peaches? I want to do something really, really special with them. So I went ahead and blended those up and added those into the rest of the applesauce. And I have to tell you, that is my absolute favorite. They're white peaches, so they're not good for canning, but boy, you can freeze them up and make delicious treats with them. And I was so happy to get my 2 single peaches this year. I have ordered some special little pouches that are freezer safe that I can put in the freezer. I'm going to have for my granddaughter when she comes to visit. You know, those little squeezy pouches the kids all love, because I didn't have any. So for now, the applesauce will be in these containers. Once they're cooled, I'll put them in the refrigerator, and within a couple days, I'll have this and we'll package it up. I can't wait to see you next time and see what we got done for the next episode of Every Bit Counts Challenge for 2024.